I mean, anyway, not talking only about Paris-Roubaix, there was one of the biggest 1 week stage races in Spain going on as well, Tour of Basque Country. We got our first ever Danish winner this time, Vingegaard. But yeah, what exactly happened in this very delightful race?
I feel like Ewan's better at the recaps than me. Jonas pretty much just dominated the whole GC scene pretty much, didn't he? I think I was hoping for more competition. I mean, there was some really good stages. I mean, there was a bit of a sketchy sprint which Edith Skelling won, but it was a good week for Bora as well because they got a stage win with Higita. There was some also really good surprising performances from riders like Mauro Schmidt was looking really good as well. Felix Gall was once again a really good performer. I know there was quite a lot of hype. He did good in the Tour of the Alps last year, and then there was a lot of hype going into the Giro for him. So we'll wait and see whether he can live up to more this year. I'm expecting good things from him this year. But, then there's also, Enric Mas, Godu, the kind of usual suspects who were all filling out the top 10. Everybody was looking on a similar level, apart from Jonas, who was really just flying away from people, especially on stage 6. I mean, he literally he just rode away. I remember Mas was like on his wheel, and then Jonas just went, see it. And that was it. It was a decent week of racing, but it really lacked the mountaintop finish, which we come to expect from the last stage of Basque Country. And I think that was quite missed, considering that we only had like one steep finish, which is where Higuita and Juanpe Lopez collided in like the last few hundred meters. Do you remember that? That was kind of funny in a way.
It was a silly moment, silly cycling season. And I think we can almost crown our champion for the most underwhelming stage race at the UCI level of the year. Congratulations, Tour of the Basque Country. Here is your trophy. I want to dedicate this to Jonas Vingegaard and Jumbo-Visma for being dominant but boring, and Mikel Landa for being typically Mikel Landa and missing that.
Whoa!
I'm sorry.
When Pogacar does it, it's incredible. When Jonas does it, it's boring. Excuse
No,
me.
I'm being facetious, using every vowel in the alphabet. It was fine. I think it's just the fact that this race continues to be underwhelming because it's at a really inconvenient part of the year where it's in between Ronde van Vlaanderen and Roubaix. I don't know why this is being allocated as the spot for Basque Country, but it is. As such, it has a very sort of second tier list of competitors sometimes. It is rather underwhelming. Jonas Vingegaard was convincing throughout, I think, that victory where Juanpe Lopez accidentally gave him the win. But he was actually very convincing on that climb where he did dance away from everybody. Yeah, I mean, Vingegaard won. I think it's just like the sort of there's something about Pogacar, but I think it's also about his sort of physiology and the way he rides the bike. There seems to be this like visual panache, like the way he rides is so aesthetically pleasing. But Vingegaard looks labored on the bike. It looks like he's just getting a job done. And then in the post-race interview, he just gives us sort of a paint by numbers response. And I don't know.
Yeah, it was a really good race. I can't do a bingo.
That sounded like Sean Kelly there for a second.
Who knew I
But
had Sean Kelly? No, we have to go for you for the impersonations.
Sean, it was a really good race. Jonas
No, Jonas
Vingegaard
Vingegaard.
in the Tour of France, he's a favorite. Sean, if you're watching, DM me. Nevertheless, for Vingegaard, yeah, I mean, it was decent. He got the job done. It's typical Vingegaard, really. It's just executing a plan. Landa sort of missed the mark. David Gaudu let me down. We all know what David Gaudu can do, and apparently that's fourth place at Tour of the Basque Country. We need to wait for Gaudu, Godspace Gaudu, in France. He's going to come back. He's going to be back fighting at the Dauphiné. Mark my words.
Natural question here. Is Jonas Vingegaard now the favorite for the Tour de France? Because Tadej Pogacar has worn himself out with too many cobbles and whatever. So now Vingegaard is just going to sail to the victory again.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the tricky thing of that, but no offense to the rest of the guys there, but it's kind of like his competition there. I mean, at the same time, you could say that Gaudu was beating Vingegaard at Paris-Nice, but then he was being beaten here. Is that just because Gaudu only cares about winning in France?
As he should.
It could be.
His
Maybe it's
his
just like, you know what?
his head's elsewhere. He's thinking about these pension reforms in France. And also it was the national strike on the 6th of April. His mind was probably with that. He's channeling his inner Blaireau, his inner Bernard into this. We all knew David Gaudu was a socialist fighter. We all needed. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, but there was no Pogacar here, which is always kind of tricky. Ineos was certainly not firing on any cylinder, really, apart from Ethan Hayter. Like, Hayter won the first stage, which was a miracle considering that he wasn't ever back of a peloton. That was pretty entertaining, the fact that he was actually towards the front. And to be honest with you, Hayter has been a little bit underwhelming this season, so it was kind of nice to see him actually kind of getting off the mark, to be honest with you. And that was really Ineos's main takeaway from the week was his victory. You know, Danny Martinez didn't really do anything. Luke Plapp, again, didn't really do anything, which I was a little bit let down by. Although he was a late addition to the start list, it must be noted. But Ineos, once again, just a little bit underwhelming. So Jonas's competition wasn't that great, but I certainly think that winning a stage race is a good confidence boost, considering that Pogacar has already won quite a few things so far this year. I think it's good for Jonas to really kind of stamp his victory in there. It's kind of like Pogacar's racked up a few, and Jonas has kind of retaliated with a Basque Country win, which, you know, although, like we said, it was a little bit underwhelming, perhaps it was still a victory of a World Tour stage race. So, you know, it gives Jonas and Jumbo a little bit of confidence. You know, if Jonas lost, let's say Jonas didn't win this, there would be some question marks about his ability going forwards. But his victory does, you know, reaffirm that, yes, he is still Jonas and he is still good and he is still the reigning Tour de France champion, and we shouldn't just forget about him.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing that's going to anyone who's a fan of Jonas Vingegaard is going to hate this stat. But since, well, how far are we going to go back? The last 30 years? Yeah, I think 30 years. Yeah. There's only been one winner of the Tour of Basque Country who's gone on to win the Tour de France, and that was Alberto Contador back in 2009. So that's not a great stat for Vingegaard. Is he better than all of these riders? Hopefully, but as well, one thing we didn't really speak about that podium. We only Vingegaard and nobody else really mattered. But Landa and Ion Izagirre finishing on the podium for a sixth time in his career. I think that's quite crazy.
It's good in terms of local support. Landa and Izagirre, both Basque riders, but look at this top 10. Are any of them winners? No offense, but like, in terms of sort of there being like a step up, I feel it more in terms of like modern cycling, where we are now in the 2020s to where we are in the 2010s, where victory is concentrated only within a small pool of riders. Is Mikel Landa a winner? Infamously not. Jonas Vingegaard, yes. The man finishes third. That's kind of his place. Enric Mas, the man has come second on so many occasions, but never gets number one. Brandon McNulty, he's called Brandon McFalty to some for a reason. Like these guys aren't really winners. Maybe Simon Yates is the first name I would see on that list and think, he should probably be higher. But none of these guys really are sort of going to be threats for the Tour de France. These aren't guys who win stage races. If we had he can't really race against Roglic, but if we had like a Roglic of 2019 Bernal, or like Geraint Thomas, one of these kind of riders, Adam Yates, whoever, like competing against him, then I feel like we could sort of lift this stage race victory higher. But I agree, though, it is a UCI World Tour stage race. We shouldn't sort of poo-poo it, and it is going to be a big motivation booster for him. On this podcast and sort of in the general cycling discourse, we're oscillating between, is Pogacar the best? Is Vingegaard the best? Every week we seem to be jumping in different camps. So what we now need is for Vingegaard to win a monument, and I think we're on the same level between them going into the Tour de France. If Vingegaard wins Liège, Tadej's washed.
I'm not even sure he's going to Liège. He's not.
I was going to say he shouldn't go, but if he really wants to sort of no, but in terms of it doesn't really suit his interest. He's not a classics rider. Why would he go? He should probably be training elsewhere instead. That's why it's not like a sort of comment. I think he should be doing other things, being more productive with his time.